What I'm going to be speaking on in the next 25 minutes is building a thinking citizenship and a thriving nation. Now, the problem we have when we talk about thinking is that a lot of us think that we'll sit in one place and begin to think a solution that we will never do. But thinking is not sitting. Thinking is acting. In fact, thinking is not talking. Talking is only part of thinking. Because one of the things I have been able, I'm so privileged, I'm one of the most privileged Nigerians, and that's why maybe even when Japaism became a thing, I cannot betray the nation and travel. You know why? I am not part of those people who look for a job. At 19, I was already in a civil service setting. And here is this thing. If my family had not, if my father had not had the opportunity that he had, maybe I will not have the opportunity that I have. My father, at 23, was already a good teacher. The man we called my grandfather, who incidentally is my uncle, you know, who trained my father, became a head teacher at 26. So I came from a privileged family, not in terms of wealth, but in terms of wisdom. So when we are talking about Nigeria, I count myself as privileged. Because at 19, I was already in civil service setting. At 22, I was a student union president. At 23, I was already consulting for government, advising the government. And at 36, I was already running in the forefront of becoming the governor of my state. Now, in these three sectors, after 2012, I was privileged to have a small branch of a church that God had put us over to pastor. It means that I have traveled from leading in a religious organization to going into the civil service to going into private sector. Maybe I didn't tell, I'm a businessman. And in all of this, I put it together. Don't let anybody deceive you. Nigerians are the same. The believers that I see in church, the unbelievers that I see outside of church, we have one same behavior. And it's not sin. The behavior is that we are always waiting for somebody to be the solution to the problem we see. So for us to be able to build a thinking citizenship, we must let people understand that any problem you see, do it. At a point, I was sitting in the committee, they call the organization IPAC. IPAC is the body of all the political parties in Nigeria. And when I was hearing our conversation, I pitied those people who were outside, who were thinking that their solution will come from that meeting. Because every man is looking for, what can I benefit? Can I shock you? There were 18 people who ran for office when I ran for office. And I'm being modest here. I'm being modest. It was only 1.5 persons that didn't go to use the opportunity they have to run for office to collect money. I said 1.5 because after the election, the half still follow the other to see can we get anything there. So building a thinking citizenry is an antidote to building a working nation. Because as believers, as unbelievers, as whoever you are, I'm here to tell you one very bad news. Nobody is outside there thinking about you. So the essence of what we are saying is that we have a responsibility to make our nation what we want to make it. But you cannot make anything out of the nation if you have not made anything out of your life. My job involves that I speak on television. And sometimes you get there and you criticize the government for what you think they can do right. You criticize the government for what they can do right. And you come out and you are frustrated. But the only thing that gives you fulfillment is doing that thing that you think another person can do right. Power of responsibility. So, how do we build a thinking citizen? Number one, by all of us here understanding that the answer to the questions that we seek lies in the thought of our head. The answers to the questions that we keep asking lies in the thought of our head. What do I mean by this? All of us here, we must agree, if there's anything we are going to do today, that Nigeria is like this because of you and me. In other words, because many of us still think that our solution is coming from abroad. I am not a doer as I would have loved to be. And each day I thrive and I pray to be a doer. But there's no one sector in the economy that I've thought badly about that I've not involved myself. In all modesty, I returned home and I saw a crisis in 2020 of people walking on the street and people looking at you, well dressed, and they move from, I don't give beggars money, and I'm sorry about that. There's nothing you can do about it. I don't give. If you like quote someone, I don't give. But in 2020, I discovered that when I walk on my street, I see a lot of people saying they don't need money, they need food. So it's a dimension that caught my attention. If you say, give me money, you are stranded. Stranded. It's okay. It's okay. Let me tell you this story why I'm that wicked. I had 11,400. At the end of the month, I was working with a television house. And somebody came and said, this story is on Facebook, and said that I need to pay a microfinance bank 11,000. And I gave the person 11,000 naira. And the person disappeared. She never paid back. But a lot of you think that's why I became no, that's not why. I became this because after the person took the money, there was no transport fare for me. And I trekked from Ketu to Ikorodu 7 times in the month. 7 times. I will wait for everybody to leave. And I will enter the room. But you see the way God works. When I was in Akure, there was a funny dress I bought about 2-3 years before that time. It was so funny for those who know white garment people, white garment church. They call some set of people the cherubims. They are the one that enforce orders in the church. So it looks like a cherubim kind of cloth. So I don't wear it often. One day on a Friday, there was nothing to wear. I just wore that dress to the office. So what I do is that I will come to the office because it's very, very early. Then I will trek back in the evening. So I had a little money on me that day, given to me by my former boss, Nino Atiba. So I said, let me get those white buses and go back to my Ikorodu MP. As I entered the bus, I was offering the conductor money. The conductor kept saying, don't worry. I was offering. He kept saying, don't worry. The third time, I said, he said, officer, don't worry. And I said, hey, I'm now an officer. Okay, that's good. So what saved me was the fact that I now know that with that cherubim kind of cloth, you look like an officer. So I will dress well and put the cherubim clothes on. That was why I was able to survive for 30 days. But before God intervened, I had trekked 7 times from Ketu to Ikorodu, and that taught me one thing. There was a time, incidentally, I wanted to pay in church. I wanted to pay my offering in church, and there was no money. So I said, let me quickly go to a nearby ATM. I took only the money that I will use in my pocket. I got to the ATM on a Monday morning. None was dispensing. But I thought to myself, instead of turning to you, sir, and say, help me, I am going to church because you will think I'm one of them. I would rather trek. Before I got to church, they finished service. But I was proud that I was able to trek. That's why I don't give people money. What I am saying in essence is that people need to know that they have to take responsibility for their life. And whether you blackmail me, whether you are emotional about it, it doesn't change the fact that this is what I have made. Because I have brought somebody from abroad to come to my own church. By privilege, I attend the Winners Chapel. And he came, there's a place we call the Canaan Land. And he came to Canaan Land. And we were driving. The first thing he noticed was that he told to me, he said, Dotun, why are there many beggars here? Despite what is going on. He could not have imagined that with what people are taught, they will now be saying, excuse me, sir, but that's what he saw. But do you know what those guys do? They have the money. They only take advantage of what is being taught on the altar. That give, it shall be given to you. So they just position themselves as the receiver who wants to take advantage of the purse of everyone. Say with me, responsibility. So we must take responsibility for our life. When I see people talk about Nigeria is going to see, I've gone through many elections. I just did one in 2023. I did not contest because I left contesting to building a political party. I just did one in 2023. I can tell you of a truth that if nobody rises from here, we will continue like this. But the truth is that some of us are rescued already. It's not in terms of naira and kobo. The greatest thing that can happen to anyone here is to know what to do at any time. So in 2020, when I saw the dimension of people changing from giving me money to giving me food, I knew, Pastor, I knew we had to do something. I took responsibility. There's a place called Iju, very close to Akure. We went there, we just got 54 acres of land. What are we going to do there? We want to produce food. The food may not get to you in Lagos, but it will solve the immediate problem I have in my household of people thinking I have money more than them when I am behind in my dream and in my be. Responsibility. Nigerians, I'm sorry to use this hard word, we are more of a charlatan than our country itself. Oh, the president is bad. Fine, I'm one of those people that are giving it to them hot. But I have also dealt with people. The greatest impact I've made is not in politics. They gave me a fund to manage. This will interest you. They gave me a fund to manage a fund on behalf of an organization. Run into, let's be conservative a bit, but it's not millions. So that clears it. Do you know that for not taking bribe, I have a problem? People did voice note and sent to me and say, are you Jesus Christ? Am I? No, I'm not. But that's the expectation. That is the expectation. If you become a counselor, that's the least this thing today, and you don't build a house, you will see what your parent will do to you. You will see what your parent will do to you. But we went through the fire. I was a student union president. A seamstress who was helping me to adjust my clothes was calling me, brother, don't ibole rale. I say, are you okay? By the time you forget about the dimension of this thing that you hear on television. By the time you get hold of the real purpose of your life, all of those things that we lay emphasis on, you will see that they are secondary.